Chess openings, do's and don'ts. First, the don'ts. Don't open with your rook pawn. Why? Because you don't want to bring your rook out early. Why? Because there's a lot of clutter on that board. And everybody has all their pieces, and the rook likes an open row to fly around on. So the rooks generally come out last. So you don't want to open up with your rook pawn. You don't want to bring out your queen early, because the queen ends up getting chased by all the pieces in the early opening of the game. And so you'll find you'll be moving your queen 5 times in the early openings just to get out of harm's way. Now some of the do's. For the pawns that you want to open up with are the king pawn, the queen pawn, or the king pawn. Why? Because when you open up the king pawn, for example, the bishop can come out and the queen can come out. Now, of course, you don't want to bring out the queen out early, but there's an opening made for your queen to come out. The same is true in a lesser extent for the queen pawn. Your bishop can come out and your queen can come out. So those are good developing moves. The earliest major piece you want to bring out would be the knights first and the bishops later. So knights first, bishops later, maybe then the queen, and the castles and the queens pretty much the last. Also, one of the do's is whenever you find there's an open file or an open row, put your rook on it, because the rook gets a lot more power when it's on an open row or an open file. Know your enemy's weakest pawn before you begin. And before anybody even makes a move, locate that weak pawn. Where is it? It's the only pawn guarded by the king. No other piece guards that pawn. Only the king. If that pawn gets attacked, only the king can attack back if it doesn't put itself in check. And over here would be the black pawn. That would be the weakest pawn. That is what scholars mate and four move checkmates go after. So a general opening would be like this: to bring the king pawn out, bring the knight out, and what you're doing is you want to control the center. That's another thing that you want to look out for in an opening. The person who controls those 4 center squares will win the game. It's very hard to beat the enemy when they have control of that center. And so the next move would be a bishop move. This is a pretty good move because it attacks that weakest pawn. Because later you can bring the knight over here, and now you have 2 pieces guarding that pawn. And how many are defending it? Just the king. Now, of course, black will find ways to defend you, but at least you're getting your attack going on. And once you get your bishop and knight out, you can then castle. You want to castle in the openings. That gets your king out of the way. That means you can get this rook over here and push down this open file and push this pawn down along with this. You can push these pawns down with the queen and the rook, and after this bishop gets out of the way and this knight is over here, then you can double up your queen and rook or your rook like that, and you're pushing down the center. When you do castle, don't ruin your castle fortress. This is your castling fortress. You have 3 pawns in front and your knight guarding like a sentinel. When you move these 3 pawns, they become weaker. Only move them out of necessity when you're being attacked, if you have to, as a last resort. Look for pins and forks. What's a fork? Well, a fork would be, here's the knight, and he comes down and takes that pawn, and he can attack that rook, and he checks the king. So at the same time, in that case, the black king has to move, or one of these pieces can take the knight. But let's say nobody can take the knight, then this is a fork, and the king has to get out of check, and the knight wins the rook. That's a fork. A fork is also this. Pawn moves right there, and the pawn can either take that bishop or that queen. That's a fork with a pawn. A bishop can do a fork. Let's say the bishop's guarded, and he can have the choice of attacking the queen or the bishop. And then this would be a knight fork. Knight attacks queen and bishop at the same time. That is a fork. A pin is what you see regularly in the opening game. And often it involves a bishop attacking a knight. And here's an example. The opening game, king pawn moves out. They move their king pawn. Your knight comes out. Their knight comes out. Your bishop comes out. Actually, your bishop can go there. Now, at this moment, if they move their pawn, then black has actually put itself in a pin because it can no longer move this knight. Why? Because not only is this a pin, because he can't move the knight, because the bishop puts the king in check, and you can't put yourself in check. So the knight is trapped there. A lot of times to get out of that pin, black will move that, so then it can later free up his knight to move. But that is a pin, and it's also a hidden check, because as soon as that knight moves, the king is in check. So that's an example of a pin and a hidden check. Those are the chess opening fundamentals. Try to use them in all your games. Thank you.